Today's review is for Hook by Terry Brooks. Well, mostly for Hook by Terry Brooks. So Hook is a novelization of the movie. Terry Brooks, of course, is a very able author in his own right. He wrote The Sword of Shannara and all the other Shannara books. He also wrote The Black Unicorn, which is on my to-do list, or to-do again list, rather. Now, there's stories that he didn't really enjoy writing this book. I don't know how true that is. And this is essentially very much a novelization of the movie. I think it's scene for scene. I believe it's word for word. So if you're familiar with the Robin Williams movie Hook, then this is basically all the words that happened in the movie. So as such, it's well enough written. 2.5 or 3 out of 5 stars, I guess, because it is a bit of fun. There isn't really a lot to say. If you've seen the movie, and I have seen the movie a couple of times and enjoyed it, basically this is like watching the movie again on the inside of your head to a fairly large extent. I'm not sure if there's any differences. But the funny thing about Hook is that Hook, of course, is the book of the movie that was made out of the novel Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, which was made out of the short story Peter Pan in Heathrow Park, Peter Pan or the Boy Who Wouldn't Grow Up, which started in the form of a 1904 play based on a short story that was the one in some sort of park in England. Heathrow Park? A park. Whichever park it is that has the Peter Pan statue, that park, okay? And after that, you got a 1911 novel named Peter and Wendy, and then you started having movies and more books and animations. It's like Peter Pan is this story that we all know to the depths of our souls. Say Peter Pan, I think for most of us, an image of the Disney cartoon Peter will pop up in your head with the long green tights and the cocky attitude and the whole thing. Tinkerbell, totally made famous by that book as well. And Tinkerbell in Peter Pan was incredibly influential on the development of fairies, probably the most influential element on the development of fairies. I forgot to mention pantomimes. In Australia, pantomimes aren't as big as they are in England, but pantomimes are still huge over there. And for many children, that was probably their first encounter with Peter Pan and Wendy. In my case, 2 scaffolds on stage with a board in between and people running over the top pretending they could fly. I was dubious. I think I was 4 at the time. I was very dubious. Anyhow, I love Peter Pan. We all love Peter Pan. If we're honest, when we're kids, this is the story we all love. And Hook is kind of designed, I think, to be a Peter Pan for adults. You've still got a lot of fun in it, but it's the story of Peter Banning is this American businessman, attorney at law, whatever he is, in this world of business. He's got a wife called Moira and 2 kids who he apparently likes, Maggie and Jack. No, doesn't see any of them very much, sees mostly the inside of business rooms. From the start, we know that he's given to disappointing his children and not turning up for things. The first one being when his daughter Maggie is playing Wendy in a stage play of Peter Pan and Wendy. He later disappoints his son Jack when he doesn't turn up for his baseball game. And we learn that Moira is the granddaughter of the aged Wendy Darling, who Peter, who is a foundling in the hospital, met when he was being raised by the foundation that Wendy Darling initiated. And they're going back to England for the first time in possibly 10 years in order to be present at an award that's being given to Wendy Darling for the new wing of the hospital or charity that's got to do with the adopting children thing. Anyway, whatever, that's the basis. And then Hook has declared a vendetta. He has to get Peter Pan back to Neverland in order to fight him, and he does that by kidnapping both his children and getting them to Neverland in a way that is never adequately explained. If the only way to get to Neverland is to get fairy dust on you, fly first start at the right and straight on till morning, I feel like Hook and Smee did not employ that methodology. However, Hook is what it is. I'm going to say a word or two about Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This being the story that we all know to the depths of our soul, but how many of us have read it as adults unabridged? Well, I would have sworn back in August 2024 when I did that I had read it and that I did know the story. And boy, I was pretty wrong. I think most of us are. So apparently I read this too early to put it on my YouTube channel. I can't see a video for it. What I'm going to say is from the introduction, the Peter Pan bequest. In 1929, J.M. Barrie donated all the rights from Peter Pan to Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital. In 1987, the UK copyright expired, but the next year a unique act of Parliament ensured that royalties from Peter Pan related things would still go to the hospital, which is pretty damn cool. Other things about Peter Pan and Jim Barrie are, he wrote it based on short stories to do with the young boys of his friends, the Thulbans. Now, as I understand it, and I'm relying on the internet here, and the internet's give different interpretations. The Thulbans actually died, the father first, followed by the mother about a year later. And Barrie ended up kind of adopting, or at least raising, the two boys for whom the original stories were either told or by whom the original games were played, ambiguous. And that ends up giving you, I think, a fair amount of the darkness in this book, and maybe the predominance of the theme of a mother being important for boys, because the two boys that he adopted ended up losing their mother, and I don't know if that's part of this. I'm not sure when she died, whether before it was published or not, but the importance of motherhood was very strong here. Another very dark theme that may have inspired Barrie to write this was that his older brother had died at the age of 14, and his mother comforted herself on this horrible event, which apparently shattered their family, in the knowledge that he would never have to grow old. He would always be a boy. And that darkness of theme does, I feel, creep into the end of Hook, where Peter Pan goes back to the real world with his children, promising Neverland that he will never forget them. But he does forget them when he gets back to the real world. And there's just this dark underlying hint of the fact that he will one day return. And yeah, it does feel dark. I don't know that that's in the movie. Some of the things that I've read suggest that Terry Brooks didn't really enjoy writing this book, and maybe ended up putting in a bit more of the adult theme and the adult concept that I think are very prevalent in Peter Pan, and which is probably what makes it such a fine children's book. It's hard writing a good book. Writing a good children's book that is going to last the ages, I suspect, is even harder. But Barrie did it. He's created something that has definitely lasted the ages in many forms. Now, okay, bird is going to crash, whatever. Reading it unabridged was very surprising, because while it is a children's story and it's kind of in the theme of a bedtime story to children, by modern standards it was neither childish nor simplistic. In fact, Peter Pan himself, which we know as this innocent, green, frolicking boy with a fairy as a companion, he's not that in this book at all. He is a complex chaos character. He is pure chaos, neither good nor evil, and in fact unable to think or conceive beyond the moment, and completely unable to conceptualize good or evil. Which, when you think about that, complete lack of awareness of something being good or bad or wrong or right, we're looking at an incredibly dark character. Which is why his second name, Pan, for the Roman god Pan, actually fits it very well. A sinister character, while fascinating and interesting, I would say that this book and no real similar book would be published in this day and age as under the umbrella of a kid's book. Anyway, that was a great book. I might reread it one day. Some of that sinister element comes in here, but it's more a book. But this is more a book based on the movie, and it's entertaining. It's meant to entertain. It's meant to entertain adults who spend too much time in the office, but they can take their kids to it. It's meant to entertain the kids whose parents spend too much time in the office and who have missed their school plays all too often. It's also got the themes of adults shucking off responsibility and learning to enjoy the things of childhood and have fun again, because the Peter Banning of this novel doesn't know how to have fun. In order to go back to Neverland and reclaim his qualities of Peter Pan in order to rescue his children from the pirates, he needs that. Now, there's some themes in here, such as when he first goes onto the pirate ship without having met the lost boys yet, that don't really zing. I'm going to say the movie zings better than the book, and there's a couple of places that it was a bit iffish. But if you love the Steven Spielberg movie, you're probably going to enjoy this book, especially if you haven't seen it recently, because it is basically that. Now, one more interesting thing about this is that I think most of us, when we think of Hook, we think of a Robin Williams movie, because to me, Hook was very much a Robin Williams movie. Without Robin Williams playing Peter Banning and then Peter Pan, you wouldn't have had that joy, that insouciance, that completely random element that made it fun. But this book suggests to me that when the movie came out, it was actually billed as a Dustin Hoffman movie. Because I guess Dustin Hoffman was bigger than Robin Williams back then, but Robin Williams has become a cult icon in a way that maybe Dustin Hoffman hasn't. Reading this, I remembered Maggie Smith as the aged Wendy Darling, and I will say that a small part of me was, when I first saw Hook, was insulted by the fact that Peter Pan didn't leave Neverland for Wendy, but he did for someone else. I can see why Spielberg would make that choice. You might make that choice because Wendy was the mother to the lost boys, and how creepy would it be if she was Peter's mother and then she was Peter's lover? A bit naff. You could get away with it perhaps, but they didn't have to. The other thing is that if Wendy Darling wasn't aged, we wouldn't have Maggie Smith being an old Wendy Darling, and the world would be more impoverished thereby, because she was a marvellous character. And that's pretty much it. Peter Banning has to win back his son Jack, who Hook decides to make his own son and make him forget and deny his father, because Jack is really upset with his father for not liking him. I remember Jack in the movie being a much more dynamic and interesting character than he is in the book. But overall, much fun was had by all. If you're not a fast reader and you don't already read this book or own this book, my recommendation would be find the movie and watch it again. I think that would actually be more fun. But if you do have it and you read fast, maybe it's worth rereading. Otherwise, if you want some real Peter Pan goodness, find an unabridged, original 1911 copy by J.M. Barrie, and I assure you, you will be surprised. It is not at all what you think. Oh, that's right. Julia Roberts was Tinkerbell. That was deeply questionable choice. One thing I'll give Disney, they got Tinkerbell absolutely right in that animation. Tinkerbell also is considerably less user-friendly in the original Peter Pan. Have I intrigued you yet? You should go and read Peter Pan. Or if you don't, read good books. Have a great day.